So today we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit and let you see inside my life. You know, a little story about me, who am I, where am I from, kind of thing, and what makes Mark tick, kind of thing. How I came up with the name The Padded Agent and so forth. So anyhow, just if I sound a little weirder than normal, it's because I just got over the flu from last week, and let's go into Halloween with the flu. Hearing these kids knock on the door and stuff, and your head just and stuff. It was quite the enjoyment. I can just tell you that. So hopefully I gave a couple of little bastards the flu. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, I didn't answer the door. I was in my room. So anyhow, a little update on Chance. The vet ended up, she couldn't find out what was wrong with Chance after all the blood work and everything else and stuff. So she sent us to internal medicine, or referred us to internal medicine, and they're going to do all these tests, something with a nose flush or sinus flush or something like that. Something called a rhinoceros or rhinocero or something like that. It's way above my education level. All I heard was she's going to be in the hospital for 2 days, and it's going to cost $7,000 to have this procedure done. And it's not even, this is just to figure out what's wrong with her. Not to say the money that's going to cost for the treatment, but again, what we do for our children, right? So anyways, let's move on with the show. So in the beginning, I was born in Alaska. I was a military brat. Not sure why they called them military brats, because I don't think I was a brat. My dad probably would tell you something different, but I don't think I'm a brat. But nonetheless, just ask me. I'll tell you I'm not a brat. Anyhow, I don't have a lot of memory of Alaska because we moved when I was just about 5. And because I remember when we finally got to the place we moved to, it was a month later I started kindergarten. So anyways, I think I was about 3 and a half, and my brother was 7, or something like that. Anyways, he saw my stepmother grab some chocolate out of the kitchen cabinet. She ate a piece and then put the rest of it back in the drawer. That night, my brother, exploiting his little brother, as he often did, talked me into going downstairs to find the chocolate. Being 3 years old, it didn't take very much coercing to get me to go downstairs to find chocolate. Anyhow, so him and I ate all the chocolate, and we wondered why they didn't say anything about it being missing. Maybe they didn't even notice it being gone, but it really didn't take them long to figure out who the little thieves were in the house, because it ended up being a laxative and not actual chocolate. And needless to say, we were punished in more ways than one, and they got punished because I was still in diapers at the time, so they got punished for it as well. That was quite the amusement. It didn't take long for them to figure out who the little thieves were. Another story, I guess, that I can talk about from memory there is I remember we were going camping, and my dad had this big Ford truck. It was probably a regular sized truck with a regular sized camper on it that an adult can stand straight up in and so forth. But for me, being my whole 2 feet tall kind of thing, maybe 1.5 feet tall, it was huge. This truck was just massive, and we were going camping, and we were driving down the road, and we see this moose sitting in the middle of the road. Well, my dad pulls over to the side, we're just sitting there waiting, and I was getting excited about the moose, but I was also getting very antsy about being, all in the truck and whatnot. So I didn't understand why we were sitting there waiting for the moose to get out of the road. And then this little car comes driving by. I can't even remember what kind of car it was, but it was a really small car. Goes driving by, and they get within a few feet of the moose, and then the guy starts honking his horn. Well, before I start, the couple did get out of the car in time, and that moose just started tearing that freaking car up. It destroyed that car, and I was a little pissed off because we had to drive all the way back to give this couple a ride back to the city so they could get a tow truck to come out to get what was possibly left of their car and then drive back. So 3.5-year-old, 4-year-old in a car is, for a lengthy period of time, I wanted to go exploring. I wanted to give my parents a heart attack when they couldn't find me because I was out of their sight and so forth. So it was kind of kind of annoying for me, but nonetheless, it tore that fucking car up. When I was 5, we moved to New Mexico. Now, New Mexico has a lot of one-horse towns with the horse died years ago, and I of course, lived in one of them. And we had two convenience stores. One was just your typical run-of-the-mill type of convenience store. The other one actually sold produce. Well, the owner of the one that sold produce, made a little challenge for elementary school and junior high kids, or I guess they call it middle school now, that if you could eat a jalapeno, chew it up, and swallow it, you would get a free soda and a candy bar. Well, I've always loved spicy food. Always loved. The hotter, the better. I'll take heartburn medication before I give up my spicy food. Well, I'd walk in there, grab a jalapeno, just rip it into my mouth, chew it up, swallow it, show that I swallowed it all, get my soda and my candy bar and leave. And I did this every day for, God, it must have been a year and a half. And then he switched to habaneros. It stung a little bit, but the free candy bar and soda was worth the little bit of pain that I went through and so forth. So that was a fun thing. We had one bank, dry goods, where you could buy your clothes and so forth. It was all Wrangler. You could get your felt cowboy hat and so forth there, but it was all Wrangler and so forth. We had one appliance center where you could buy your refrigerator and stove and stuff, but it wasn't too huge. We were from going on the main road, from welcome to now leaving on the main road, was exactly 3 miles. And in that 3 miles, there was like 5 bars and like 9 churches. I guess that made sense because, you go out Saturday night, get totally shit-faced, go to church on Sunday and pray to God that fucking hangover is gone by Monday morning. So yeah, it was just a small town. It was wide because there was a lot of small little farms there and stuff. We had one of them, but it was a really small town. It was one horse town where the horse died. And it was a great place. I love New Mexico. Right now I live in southern Arizona. I hate Arizona. Let's just put that out there. Let's not beat around the bush. I hate Arizona, but the reason I'm still here is my hatred for moving outweighs my hatred for Arizona. Maybe and hire somebody to move, but then it's still a pain in the ass too, because you have to pack everything, and then when it gets to a location, you have to unpack everything. It's a pain in the ass. So I'll probably be in Arizona until I die, probably, because I just don't like moving. A funny story is my roommate, he was born and raised here, so him and the son, they get along quite nicely. Me and the son have an agreement. I'll go out into it when I have to, and it won't burn me while I'm out there. But other than that, I don't like the sun. I don't like a lot of heat and so forth. That's why I choose jobs where I can sit inside air conditioning, because I'm not a landscaper by no means. Anyhow, it wasn't the last time we moved, but the time before, when we were moving from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom in the same complex. And we had gotten done moving all the stuff into the new apartment, and my roommate looks at me and he just sees I got this white crusty stuff all over my face. I mean, just all over and stuff. And he's like, "What the hell's that white stuff on your face?" Well, knowing that I, had been working all day and not, doing other things, yeah, it's as gross as it sounds. I dabbed my tongue or dabbed my finger and it was salt. I guess I sweated so much that when the sweat evaporated, or the water evaporated, it left the salt, and my face was just covered with salt all over and stuff. And yeah, he realized that next time we move, we need to hire somebody to do it, and that's what we did when we moved into the place we're in now. But anyways, back to where I lived in New Mexico. It's predominantly Hispanic, of course, because southern New Mexico, so of course it's got to be a lot of Hispanic. We like hour away from the border, maybe something like that. Anyhow, also had indigenous people, Apache, because there was an Apache reservation right up the road, and they came to school with us and so forth. They were in school with us from all the way through and so forth. It wasn't until I was in the 7th grade where we got somebody different. We got a family from Japan. Well, the dad was American Air Force, and the mother was from, Japanese. And they had a son and a daughter. And all the boys went gaga over the girl. I mean, she was a very beautiful girl. I mean, I can admit to that. But I had my very first real, true to life boy crush was on her brother. His name was Richie. We became friends. Um, well, okay. My very first boy crush has always been Ricky Schroeder. He was always my boy crush ever since I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. Always been my boy crush. Of course, I've moved on, and so he's safe now. But Richie was the Asian boy's name, and him and I became friends. And 3 months later, they ended up transferring to another base because I guess this was just a pit stop where they were at and stuff, which was, it was a very sad day. But nonetheless, he moved. And yes, before you ask, yes, I did get to see him naked a couple of times in gym class. That was a thrill for me. So how did I come up with the name The Padded Agent? When I was younger, I was really heavy into acting, school plays. Then I went into theater. Then I went into film acting and so forth. The problem is I have the memory of a peanut. I've always dealt with memory issues. In fact, I have to read something about 30 or 40 times before it locks into memory. It's a pain in the ass, and I've tried all those systems for memory help and so forth, and it doesn't help. That's why every now and then you see me looking down at the script, because I forget where I'm going and what direction I'm heading into. But in acting, you really need to remember your lines. And I've done about 24 film things and so forth, small roles here and there and so forth, but I couldn't remember my lines, and that kind of halted my acting abilities. The first, second, and third time, they're kind of forgiving a little bit because you're nervous, you're anxious, it's your first role and stuff, so you're excited about it, and you might forget your lines and so forth. By about the fourth project, you kind of need to know what you're doing. Those jitters need to be gone and so forth by about the fourth project. So I decided to go behind the camera. So I went to university. I got my master's in history because I've always loved history, and it gave me something to fall back on in case the film industry wasn't for me. And I got a degree in cinematography. I can run like $1 million movie camera, but you ask me to handle a $100 webcam or regular camera, and I'm completely freaking lost. Anyhow, well, I probably couldn't remember half the shit to run a camera anymore anyways, because I haven't done it for, 20 years. Anyhow, so while I was waiting to find work in cinematography, which never panned out, I was doing some reading for a casting director. I would be the one off camera, so that the person auditioning could react to it. And so I did that for a while, and I was really good at picking out faces and so forth, picking out, me and a casting director were talking one time, and I told her, I said, this project that was coming up, and I said, who'd be perfect for that part? I said, this person. And it was a different casting director casting and so forth. Well, the person ended up getting the role and ended up getting an Academy Award for it. So all of a sudden she kept asking me to fill this role and, to give her people to audition for this role and that role and so forth. And I would, and they would be very successful in the film. They weren't like, big blockbuster films and so forth, but they were getting awards for what they did and so forth. So all of a sudden it became this thing where I was the go-to guy to get, for fresh faces and so forth. So I made a little money at it, and I enjoyed it. Something I can do from home. I eventually got an office in LA and would go there once a week and work that for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day. And then I'd go work a retail job for about 6-7 hours a day, because I always had retail in my life. My entire adult life, I've had a retail job in some form or fashion. Because if you get a job in retail, you pretty much are assured, a job somewhere. And so anyways, I would take some of these people that I would talk to, and I would help them with the auditioning process, because I was really good at auditioning. It's just remembering my lines was my unfortunate way of life. So, but I tell them, hey, the casting director, they are not your enemy. They want you to get put in that role. They want to cast you in that role so they can get done with that and move on to another project. So they want you to be in that role. So don't be afraid to to come out and be yourself and so forth. So I kind of felt like I was kind of a theatrical teacher, and a couple of them I represented and got them into different casting directors' offices and so forth. So I kind of felt like a talent agent, which comes to agent. So agent, I was an ABDL, so, the padded agent. There you go. That's how I came up with the name. Why do I do the channel the way that I do? This gets asked to me on Twitter or X or Xer or whatever you want to call it these days. So before the Padded Agent channel, I had another channel out there. It was, I can't remember the name, but anyhow, I had that channel and I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do as ABDL and a content creator, in diapers, talking about little stuff, little space, this and that, and showing the events and so forth. But I didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right for me. So I ditched the channel and I created the Padded Agent. Well, on the Padded Agent, when I first started off with Padded Agent, I was doing the exact same thing that I was doing on, I can't remember the name of the channel, but so it's probably just as well, but I was doing the exact same type of content on that. So I stopped posting on YouTube for about 3.5, 4 years, where I didn't post anything. It was kind of a time for me to think about what I was doing and who I was, kind of thing. Not really who I was, but what kind of content I wanted to create. And then I realized the reason I got a degree in history was I wanted to be a teacher. Until I saw that teachers were getting blamed for, parents' lack of parenting. And then I realized that I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. But I like educating people. And I like, helping out, if you will. So I started to think about doing the videos where I was just dressed in regular clothes to show those on the outside looking in that ABDL is not all about diapers and pacifiers. It's actually a state of mind and not a state of look. And another reason I do the videos the way I do them is so that if somebody is watching a video, say that you're on your phone and you're watching a video with your earbuds in, and somebody comes up behind you, I'm not sitting in a diaper, I'm not showing anything that's ABDL, so you can actually watch the video without fear of somebody finding out that you're ABDL, or that you're interested in ABDL, or you're interested in just learning about ABDL. And another thing is to try to dispel some of the misunderstanding of ABDL, on what ABDL is and what it's not. Get rid of some of the stigma from it, the stereotypes of it, and so forth, and just kind of say, this is a way of life for some people. It's not all about diapers and pacifiers. It's a way of life, and not all ABDL people want to be, cared for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't want to be children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some might, but the majority don't, and some are. I would say the majority of people in ABDL are sexual, but there is a portion, probably 35%, maybe more, I could be wrong, but maybe more, are non-sexual. It's not a sexual thing for them. We're all in this together, and we all have different views. You ask 1,000 ABDLs what ABDL is for them, and you might get 1,000 different answers. So that it's not just sexual, it's non-sexual. It's not wanting to be with children, but wanting to be children. It's not what the public thinks of it. Breaking those stereotypes of what ABDL is. That's kind of what my channel is about. It's showing ABDL as a way of life, and it's a way to show people that, we're just like everybody else. We just have more comfortable underwear. How do I handle criticism? As you know, showing one's face on YouTube or any other social media platform, you're going to get some criticism. It just goes with the territory. And being that my content is about ABDL, and it's very much misunderstood, one can get a lot of criticism. So how do I deal with it? I read it, I move on. I don't reply to it. I'm a firm believer in free speech, okay? But free speech does not include free listening. I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to read it. I read it and ignore it and walk away and move on. The last thing I want to do is get into a freaking pissing contest with somebody who is too ignorant to understand that there's differences in life for everybody. You know, that just because they don't want to do something doesn't mean not everybody that everybody has to follow suit with it. Because you'll never win with these people. And they'll go as far as just to make shit up to try to prove their point. And then when you sit there and call their bullshit and say, you know, yeah, you're just speaking out your ass, then yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and it's not worth my time or energy. And on a little side note, one of the things that's just getting on my nerves is when you say something and all of a sudden you get this link please statement in your thing where they want you to connect a link to support your argument. So now what I do whenever they post that thing, link please, I send them a link to the Library of Congress. And when they're like, what, that was a link to the Library of Congress, it's not what you, it's AKA, do your own fucking research. I did my research, which is how I came up with information. Do your own fucking research to prove me wrong. Okay, it's not up to me to give you all the information you need. Do your own damn research. I did mine. So what's my goals for the channel? My goal would be to be the first ABDL content creator to hit 1 million subscribers. I think with over 7 billion people walking this planet, I don't think that's a far stretch of the imagination, and I don't think it's too high of an expectation. But seriously, it's always been to help my fellow ABDLers. And if I can change a few minds about what ABDL is and what it's not, then the channel is successful. Yes, I'd like to make money off of it. I mean, you know, but getting paid to talk about something that you're very passionate about will make me kind of a nicer person. Okay, so that's it for now. I need to save some other stuff for later videos, because, you know, it's all about, you know, creating videos and getting views and whatnot. So remember to like, subscribe, share, comment. Until the next time, stay little, stay happy.